Shalom and good evening, everyone. I didn't plan to come out here live, but this was something that needed to be shared. I had shared it before, but we're in the festival of Hanukkah, known as the Feast of Dedication, the Feast of Light. And y'all, it was just a moment where I had a light bulb. And this is dealing with getting into the mindset of Yah. Have you ever asked yourself why? When he give us the certain commandments and instruction, why we got to do it like that way, Father? Or why did the Israelites did it like that? Well, I was working on the calendar and I was looking at dates because remember I shared with you that the Feast of Dedication not only did it happen in the days of Maccabees, but it also happened in the days of Moshe. It began with him first. And it happened in the days of Solomon, as well in the days of Ezra and Nehemiah. And when we get to the gospel, we can see the Messiah also keeping it as well. Okay. So I'm going to share some passages with you from the 1611 as well as with the work of Josephus, because now you can get to understand the why. The why. So what you see here before you is a picture of the just to give you an idea. This is not exact, y'all. This is not historically correct. But I was looking at the wording, and the wording in the picture say, at the temple dedication, Solomon kneeled to pray and prayed a long prayer. So if you have the 1611, this is what I want to point out. But let me get this screen out of the way first. If you have the 1611, the 1611 of the King James Bible can give you nuggets that you would not see in other translation of the 1611. And then let me get this screen out the way first, and I'm going to take you to the 1611. Then you can see what I'm talking about. So the title of this live session now is Hanukkah Dedication Lights Kept as Tabernacles, Sukkot Feast. The why. You got to ask yourself, why did the Israelite keep it in the same manner like tabernacle, as far as looking at the offerings and how many days to feast? Why did they keep it like that? And believe it or not, the Bible gives you the why. And the second witness of this is Josephus. Okay, so let us go there now. Bear with me, y'all. It's been a while since I've done live. So I'm going to take you to the place. For those who have a copy of the 1611, I want you to open up your Bible to First Kings chapter. Let me look at my book. First Kings chapter 8. First Kings chapter 8. Before I go there, okay, yeah, let us go to First Kings chapter 8. So in First Kings chapter 8, you will have what we call a chapter summary. And most of the other copies of the King James Bible do not have this. This is one of the things that was left out, as they kept reproducing copies of it. And what it says in that chapter summary, it says the feast of the dedication of the temple and Solomon blessing, Solomon prayer, his sacrifice of peace offerings. Now I'm smiling because now y'all seeing why the Father had me to go in the direction during the time when the heathens was keeping their day of Thanksgiving, but He wanted us to know about His Thanksgiving and His offerings that we offer to Him, and when did we do it? And we've been learning that we offered the Thanksgiving offering or the peace offering on His holy days and holy feast days too. Do you see how the Father's bringing all this together? But take a look at the paragraph. Look at the chapter summary, okay? Notice here it's telling you that even Solomon kept the feast of dedication of the temple, okay? And we're going to read a little bit of it, but we're going to first go into Josephus and come back to the Bible or however the Father lead me, to go there. But it's telling you something deep here, y'all. Because remember, I was sharing with y'all how Torah gives you a physical example or an earthly example or a carnal example to understand the spiritual things that's going to take place with you dealing with the new covenant known as the renewed marriage that the Messiah made for us. Okay. So if you didn't have a copy of that 1611, you would missed out on that nugget right there. All right. So trying to think which way to go, y'all. Let me first take you to Josephus. Let's go there first, okay? I'm in the book of Antiquities, and we're going to go to Antiquities, book 8, chapter 4, and we're going to go to section 1, number 1, okay? And before we start this, the Father want me to go ahead and give this to you now. Um, when you read First Chronicles and the first book of the Kings, you will see why the Maccabees kept it as a 8-day feast in the same manner like the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Hanukkah. Okay. So we're going to get the proof and the confirmation of this because in the 1611 Bible, we only have scriptures that let us know that when Solomon kept this, it was kept in the seventh month, but we wasn't given a date. We was given a little clue. One of the chapters talking about like 7 days. They even stayed up to 14 days, but it give us a little clue. But however, through Josephus' writings, he gives you more specific details. Okay. So chapter 4 title say how Solomon removed the ark into the temple, how he made supplication to Yah and offered public sacrifices to him. When King Solomon had finished these works, and the works that he's talking about, when he was building the house of Yah, building the tabernacle of Yah, these large and beautiful buildings, and had laid up his donations in the temple, and all this in the in the interval of 7 years. There we go, y'all. We see seven, right? Remember what I told you about seven, sanctification, and like in my dream that the Father had gave unto me, perfection, perfection. Go back, even Jubilees give you a hint. Go back, see what the idea plan that the Father had for Adam before they went left, before the male and the female went left. Look at the plan. What? He created everything in 6 days, but in the seventh day was what the rest. We have to understand what it means to enter into his rest, to enter into his Sabbath. What did the Father have for us? Because remember, they were in paradise. All right. Let us continue to read. And had given a demonstration of his riches and alacrity therein, insomuch that anyone who saw it would have thought it must have been in a missed time ere it could have been finished, and would be surprised that so much should be finished in in so short a time. Short, I mean, if compared with the greatness of the work. He also wrote to the rulers and elders of the Hebrews and ordered all the people to gather themselves together to Jerusalem, both to see the temple which he had built, and to remove the ark of Yah into it. And when this invitation of the whole body of the people to come to Jerusalem was everywhere were carried abroad. It was the seventh month before they came together, which month is by our countrymen called Tishri. Okay, that's the Babylonian term, but in the Hebrew term it's Ethanim. You'll see that in the 1611. But in the Greek's tongues, but by the Macedonians, they are the Greeks, They pronounce that month as Hyber Beretoet. Forgive my tongue, y'all. The Feast of Tabernacles happened to fall at the same time. So this is how we know this is the day. It is what? The seventh month on the 15th day. The seventh month on the 15th day. So that's a biblical event, a very important biblical event for you to remember. Because now you can get understanding why the Maccabees kept it in the same manner as you keep the feast of Sukkot, the feast of tabernacles. Look what took place with Solomon. Even go back to Torah, look what took place with Moshe with the 10th tabernacle. Because the same thing happened, y'all. Something divine happened, but we're going to read about it in a few minutes. But let us keep going. It said the Feast of Tabernacles happened to fall at the same time, which was celebrated by the Hebrews as a most holy and most eminent feast. So they carried the ark and the tabernacle, which Moshe had pitched, and all the vessels that were for ministration to the sacrifices of Yah, and removed them to the temple. Now, when you get in the book, you're going to see what type of sacrifices they were offered. But let us keep reading, y'all. Okay? I'm going to let you know there was blood sacrifice offered too. All right? Let us keep going. The king himself and all the people and the Levites went before, rendering the ground moist with sacrifices and drink offerings and the blood of a great number of oblations and burning an immense quantity of incense, and this till the very air itself everywhere round about was so full of these odors that it met in a most agreeable manner persons at a great distance, and was an indication of Yah's presence. And men, as men opinion was, of his habitation with them in the newly built and consecrated place. Do y'all see that word consecrated? Remember that word we talked about in the playlist of the Thanksgiving hour, in the playlist of the Feast of Dedication known as Hanukkah, the Feast of Lights? Okay. Notice, pay attention because he's giving you a physical example of what's going to take place with you. Go back to Genesis. Understand how he made Adam. Understand what took place in him. Okay. Because we made in their image. The male and the female. That he called what? Adam. Genesis 5. All right. Oh, let me see where we at. In a most agreeable manner, persons at great distance, and was an indication of Yah's presence. And as men opinion was of his habitation with them in this newly built and consecrated place, for they did not grow weary either of singing hymns or of dancing until they came to the temple. And in this manner did they carry the ark. Father's reminding me about that ark, what's going to take place with y'all. He's giving you a physical example. hmm If you understand what that represents, then you understand what he put in Adam. Let's keep going. But when they should transfer it into the most secret place, the rest of the multitude went away, and all those priests that carried it set it between the two cherubims, which embracing it with their wings, for so were they framed by the artificer, they covered it as under a tent or a cupola. Now the ark contained nothing else but those two tablets of stone that preserved the 10 Commandments, which Yah spoke to Moshe in Mount Sinai, and which were engraved upon them. But they set the candlestick. What is the candlestick, y'all? The menorah, and the table, and the golden altar in the temple before the most secret place, in the very same places wherein they stood tilled that time in the tabernacle. So they offered the daily sacrifices, but for the brazen altar, Solomon set it before the temple, over against the door, that when the door was open, it might be exposed to sight, and the sacred solemnities and the riches of the sacrifices might be thence seen, and all the rest of the vessels they gathered together and put them within the temple. Y'all, this is deep. This is a good study for y'all, to go back through Josephus and go through Torah and go through the book of the Kings and Chronicles. You know, that's a good thing to go back and review along with the book of Maccabees. Because now you're seeing the father mindset. Now you're seeing why they did it like that. They was following the same manner of Solomon. Okay. Now let's go to the book of the let's go to Chronicles. Okay. We're gonna come back to First Kings 8, but we're gonna go to Chronicles. Oh, I don't know why I did that. So you have a biblical date to put on your calendar. The 15th day of the seventh month is the day when Solomon kept the feast of dedication. Okay? Okay. In the 1611 version, I'll read the chapter summary done to you again. The feast of dedication. Wait a minute, did I go to the right spot? We're supposed to go to Chronicles. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me go to Chronicles. Here we go. Chronicles, Second Chronicles, chapter 5. We'll read the chapter summary unto you. The dedicated treasures. Do y'all see the theme here? Everything had to be dedicated to the Father. Father is jealous. He said, "What? My name is jealous." He don't want nothing to take his glory, his honor, his praise, and anything that we use in his anything that we use in his ministry or in his worship. Those things have to be dedicated. You can't use those things for something else. And notice what take place with those things. Those things have to be cleansed, sanctified, consecrated. Okay? These things should give you an understanding what has to take place in you in order for his spirit to dwell in you. Do you understand what the Messiah was saying to us? He said, we now are his house. We now are his place where he dwells. And through the prophets, such as Ezekiel, I think in 11, he said what? He would be a little sanctuary unto us Israelites in the place that he scattered us among the heathens. This is why the Messiah said to us in Matthew 28, I'm always with you, even to the ends of this world. How he's with us when he's sitting when he's in heaven, when he's in paradise with the saints who are the most holies that he had delivered out of Sheol and the others who came after them. How he with us, y'all? We got to stand this spiritual thing. We got to stand the spirit. What the spirit does, it connects us to them. Okay, let us keep going. Oh, the dedicated treasures, the solemn induction of the ark in the oracle into the oracle. Yah being praised, giving a visible sign of his favor. Y'all, a divine thing took place. All right, let's quickly read this. Okay. Thus all the work that Solomon made for the house of Yahuwah was finished. And Solomon brought in all the things that David his father had dedicated, and the silver, and the gold, and all the instruments, put he among the treasures of the house of Yah. And y'all, we're going to see this again. I'm thinking of Jeremiah, I think it's chapter 3, with the precept of Second Maccabees, chapter 2. See what's going to take place in the what yet to come when he deal with Israel face to face. Mhm. Let us keep going. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chiefs of the fathers of the children of Israel unto Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah out of the city of David, which is Zion. Wherefore all the men of Israel assembled themselves in the king unto the king in the feast, which was in the 7th month. And what was that day, y'all? The 15th day. Okay. Let us keep reading. And all the elders of Israel, excuse my phone, y'all. Uh, all right, sorry about that. And all the elders of Israel came, and the Levites took up the ark, and they brought up the ark and the tabernacle of the congregation, and all the holy vessels that was in the tabernacle these did the priest and the Levite bring. Now, I'll mention the other prophet of what's going to happen in the future, but this to also remind you what took place, what's going to take place in Zechariah 14. Who is the vessels, or who is the clay or the pots that's going to stand before y'all in the days that is to come? Remember remember when we had talked about the fast of Savan? And through the book of Baruch, we learned what that fast was and what day it was and what it mean, what it represent, which relate to what the prophet Zechariah wrote in chapter 14, but it was talking about something deep. I see all these things, but let us keep going. Also, King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel that were assembled unto him before the ark sacrificed sheep and oxen, which could not be told nor numbered for multitude. So now we're seeing what Josephus said, that the ground was so moist because of these offerings from the drink offering, but heavily moist from the sacrifice. Blood, great amount of blood was shed on that day. And to understand why blood had to be shed, you have to go back to Torah, Leviticus chapter 16 and 17 to understand. When you understand that, do you understand why Abel offerings was a pleasing to Yah and not Cain? And to get the deeper message of that, there are some sealed books written by Moshe to give you the inner details of that. Let's keep going. And it's in the video description box for those who want to check out those things. Look in the video description box. And the priest brought the ark of the covenant of Yah unto his place, to the oracle of the house of Yah. I'm sorry, to the oracle of the house, into the most holy place, even under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread forth their wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim covers the ark, and the staves thereof above. They drew out the staves of the ark, that the ends of the staves were seen from the ark before the oracle, but they were not seen without. And there it is unto this day. Verse 10. There was nothing in the ark save the two tables which Moshe put therein at Horeb, when Yahuwah made a covenant with the children of Israel, when they came out of Egypt. Mystery on covenant. Read Romans chapter 1. Understand why Paul called you covenant breakers. But it go back to the foundation. When you truly understand what the covenant is, you will learn that it's more than just the words on the paper, or that it's just more than an agreement or a marriage. It goes deep. Verse 11. And it came to pass when the priests were come out of the holy place, for all the priests that were present were sanctified, and did not then wait by course. Also the priests which were the singers, all of them of the A, of the H, of the I, with their sons and their brethren, being arrayed in white linen, having cymbals and psalteries and harps, stood at the east. Stood at the east. There we go, east, y'all. Stood at the east end of the altar, and with them 120 priests, sounding with trumpets. It came even to pass, as the trumpeters and singers were as one, to make one sound to be heard, in praising and thanking Yahuwah. And when they lift up their voice with the trumpets and cymbals and instruments of music, and praise Yahuwah, saying, For he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. That then the house was filled with a cloud, even the house of Yahuwah. This is a verse you want to highlight here. A divine, how can I say, spiritual thing is taking place. And this too happened in the days of Moshe, when he dedicated the 10th tabernacle unto Yah. Verse 14. So when this cloud filled the house of Yah, y'all notice what take place in verse 14. So that the priest could not stand to minister by the reason of the cloud. For the glory of Yah had filled the house of Yahuwah. Now, this verse alone is going to remind you what is the yet to come, as Ezekiel was given the future prophecy of what's going to take place in the eternal kingdom, chapter 40 to chapter 48, which go in hand with the book of Revelation. Many of us don't understand what this glory is. Okay? Many of us don't understand about the cloud. But notice this, that the priest could not stand to minister. This is how powerful it is. And for those who have experienced it, I'm going to tell you as a witness, the Ruach is so powerful, y'all. It brought me down to my knees. And as it's written in the living word, I had no control over my tongue. And I spoke the unknown language. And before I spoke the unknown language, I can feel it moving from my bowels, okay, my bowels, all the way up in my esophagus, which is the throat, proceeding to my tongue, and I had no control over it. So I can relate to what these priests experience when you're standing in his presence. You can't stand up. I'm going to tell you that. It's very powerful. Okay. Here are the side notes and the precepts for Second Chronicles chapter 5. Okay. And the only thing we're going to look at in first Shalom to those who just came on, we're going to look at is the book of Kings. I think it was the book of Kings, chapter 8. But it would be good for you to read First Kings chapter 8, even the couple chapters before that, all the way to, let's see here. I would say even First Kings chapter 9. But it's a good chapter to read because Solomon prayed a prayer, and that prayer has, how can I say this? Some good things you want to meditate and study. And it would put an end to a lot of the false doctrines that you see that's going on with the Israelites, as with the Gentiles, you know what I'm saying? But when you read Solomon prayer, you will see what's going to take place. Also, for those who have a copy of the 1611, you will see that it gives you the precepts of what's listed in the gospel. So you can understand what Solomon was praying for. Okay. That's something you can do in your spare time. But when we look at First Kings chapter 8, what was it stick out to me besides giving us a date and giving us understanding why the Maccabees kept it as an 8-day feast and in the same manner of what we offer on the Feast of Tabernacles. But let me see here. It also going to confirm with the book of Chronicles in verse 10 how the spirit of Yah filled the house. Okay. And It's going to give you your precepts for you to go back and read, such as verse 10, Exodus chapter 40, verse 34. In the book of Chronicles, you want to go to Second Chronicles chapter 5 of what we just read. Okay, so it has a lot of good information. Take this time now to pause your screen to get the side notes for 1 Kings chapter 8. But another thing I do want to highlight here is looking at verse 62. 62. So verse 62 says, and we're going to read down, okay, to 63. And the king and all Israel with him offered sacrifice before Yahuwah. And Solomon offered a sacrifice of peace offerings. There they go, y'all, peace offerings, which you offer unto Yahuwah 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. Y'all, that's a lot of sacrifice there. That's a lot of blood, y'all. So the king and all the children of Yashrael dedicated the house of Yahuwah. I'm sitting here smiling because I'm reflecting on what Ezekiel saying to us and what's going to take place and then what yet to come. We're going to begin to understand these prophecies when the Father bring his house. It is brought in the 10th day from Adam, and 10 represent completion, which is where the Father throne room is, the Holy of Holies in the heavens. Okay. Which align with the 15th day of creation, which is the first day in the third week. Right now, we're in the second week. But notice that the first day in the third week is also represented by the number 8 as new beginning. Tell you, Father speaking deep, y'all. So, another thing the Father want me to point out about Solomon. During this particular time, we know about the gift that the Father placed upon Solomon. He was the most wisest man upon the earth, and no other man would be like Solomon after Solomon's time. But notice the time period. This was in the time before Solomon went left, because when he married um, the women of the Gentile nation, and he was in old age, that's why he went left, because he began to give an ear unto them and to begin to commit idolatry. Okay, so that was a no-no. But notice here in this particular time, in the time of his, I want to say like youth, in his better days, and you can see how wisdom was operating upon him, that he too understood the blood sacrifice and why blood had to be shed in order to dedicate the house of Yah unto our Father in heaven. So now as we transition to the new covenant, y'all, now we can understand why we too have to be sealed in the blood of the Lamb. How are you going to be dedicated and sanctified and consecrated unto Yah? Because we can't stand before him in any way or any manner, because he holy. And because he holy, if we are defiled or unrighteous, we will be cut off, put to death, or what's I'm trying to think of something. We just couldn't stand in his presence, y'all. So when you understand what take place with you in the renewed covenant, and he gave us his servant Job in the OT to understand Romans chapter 8 and chapter 8 and chapter 10, to understand what's going to take place in you. You don't come into his kingdom by your righteousness, because you couldn't keep it by your hand, because you are in flesh now. You have fallen from your divine estate. But you come into his kingdom by his righteousness, that's written in Psalms chapter, I think, 98 and Romans chapter 8. Let me check, because I always get my numbers mixed up when it comes to the book of Romans. But it tells you what is the righteousness of Yah. Okay? And when you understand really who is that righteousness of Yah, who is that lamp that is placed within you, or who is your eye, or who is the light, who is the iron. When you understand that, then you understand that you're not coming by your righteousness, but by his righteousness. And this is why you're not defiled or unclean or unholy unto him. This is why Father can receive you. Okay. And then along with that, your heart becomes aligned with him. It's not hardened. It's not wicked. Okay. It's not unclean with impure thoughts or evil thoughts. Because the living word would get you in check with that. And then along with your heart comes what? Faith with works, your deeds. So when you understand that, then you understand why you can be received by him and why you will enter into his eternal kingdom. All right, y'all, I done said enough, but let me look at Romans chapter 8. I hope you enjoyed this quick word, but take time out to look at all the ancient leaders or forefathers or our ancestors, Gentiles. Take a look at the Israelite history. Look at these things in the days when they kept dedication of Hanukkah, such as Moshe, King Solomon, in the days of the Maccabees, in the days of Nehemiah and Ezra, and also in the days of the Messiah. And meditate on these things because it has a deep message of mystery that the Father wants to reveal unto you so you can graduate. So you can no longer be carnal, but you can come up higher with him and understand the spiritual things. All right. Let me see. I'm supposed to go to Romans 8, y'all, to make sure. Let's see here. Getting there. Okay. I'm in Romans now. Yep, I did have my chapters mixed up. It's in Romans 10. Romans 10. So you can understand his righteousness. It's a big difference from your righteousness. All right, love you all. Continue, my brothers and sisters, to preach that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, for it's truly at hand. We can see the signs in the heaven and the earth, but they both are his witnesses too. Make sure the people receive salvation as written in Romans chapter 10. Baptize the people in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. For the Lamb set the example, the water baptism, the Holy Spirit baptism. Now, if you don't have no one to baptize you, you can baptize yourself because the water is the second witness in the earth, and his heavens and the earth is a witness unto him, and they can report back unto him of those who have entered into the covenant or the renewed marriage. Because when you understand the mystery, how the Father, when he created everything, he poured his spirit upon all his creations. Go back to them sacred books and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is why the Messiah said, if I allow the rocks to speak, they will cry out and they will worship Yah. Mysteries. Okay. Saying the same with the Holy Spirit baptism, y'all. Father made this real easy for us. He made this real easy. All we have to do is ask in the name of his son, Yahushua Mashiach, and he would give it unto you according to your heart, your faith, and your words. Love you all, and shalom.